Welcome back to another one of my videos. In today's video, I'm going to be making this Easter bunny cake, which is a raspberry lemon poppy seed cake. Now the first thing we need to make is our sponge cake. So for that, you're going to need 4 room temperature eggs, 125 grams of sugar with a good pinch of salt, 1 package of vanilla sugar or just a good splash of vanilla extract, 125 grams of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 25 grams of poppy seeds. Now there's already a video on my channel on step-by-step how I make my sponge cake, as well as some tips and tricks. So if you want to see that, you can watch it up there. But essentially all we're going to do is whisk together our eggs, sugar, salt, and vanilla until super light and fluffy and doubled in size. And in the meantime, we can already whisk together our dry ingredients. Now that our egg mixture is super fluffy, we can sieve in our dry ingredients and fold that in. Now I prefer doing that in 2 sections, that way it just doesn't weigh down our egg mixture. This can now wander into the oven that's been preheated to 180 degrees Celsius or 360 degrees Fahrenheit for 25 to 30 minutes. Now for the filling, you're going to need 300 grams of frozen and thawed raspberries, 1 good splash of vanilla extract, the juice and zest of 1 lemon, 500 grams of cream cheese, 30 grams of powdered sugar, and 400 milliliters of heavy whipping cream. Now we'll start by just adding our raspberries with our lemon juice and our lemon zest into a pot. And we're just going to bring this up to a boil and then let it simmer for about 5 minutes. Now in the meantime, we can already cream together our cream cheese, vanilla, and sugar, and we can also whisk up our whipping cream until we have some nice stiff peaks. Now that the raspberries have cooked down, we just want to strain it to make sure that any of the lemon zest or any of the raspberry seeds get out, and that's just going to make our cream be a lot more smooth, and we don't have all these seeds in there, which is kind of annoying anyways. We're going to let our raspberry mixture simmer for another 5 minutes, and in the meantime we can already let our gelatin bloom. So I'm going to use 1 package of gelatin. If you don't have any packages like this, you can just use 8 grams of gelatin. To let the gelatin bloom, you basically just want to add your gelatin into a cup or a bowl and simply add a splash of water. Now that our raspberries have thickened quite a bit, we can quickly fold in our bloom gelatin. I'm going to let the gelatin raspberry mixture cool down just a little bit more before I start adding dollops of our cream cheese mixture to temper it. Now the last thing we need to do with our filling is gently fold in our whipped cream. Now at this point you can give it a quick taste and see if you need to add any more lemon, sugar, or vanilla, or anything else. Now at this point we can get to layering our cake. So I already went ahead and I cut our cooled off sponge cake into 4 even layers. And I'm also going to be using a cake ring just to make it a little bit easier to layer everything and so that our filling doesn't spill out everywhere. Now we're simply going to add 1/4 of our filling onto each of our sponge layers. Now once you get to the top, you just want to make sure to smooth it out to make sure you have a nice smooth top. Now our cake can wander into the fridge for at least 4 hours, but ideally overnight so that the gelatin can set. Now to finish the cake, you're going to need 400 milliliters of heavy whipping cream, a good splash of vanilla extract, 2 teaspoons of sugar, and 1 teaspoon of cocoa powder. Now we're simply going to whisk our cream up to stiff peaks, and we're going to take a portion of that, about 1/3, and we're going to add in the cocoa powder. That way we're going to have 2 different colors for our bunny. Now the first thing that we need to do is spread a thin layer of our whipped cream just on the very top. Now it really doesn't have to be thick at all. It's just going to be like a glue so that we can stick our 2 halves together. Now to get the bunny shape, we're going to have to cut our round cake right down the center. Now I suggest using a sharp knife that you run under hot water, and that's just going to make it a lot easier to cut your cake. And then we're simply going to stick both of our halves together. Now to make this look a little bit more like a bunny, we have to carve off a little bit of our extra cake. Now I'm going to carve in here to make a more pronounced head here and a more pronounced body. And I'm also going to carve off some of the extra here on the side to make it a little bit more round. Now that we have a pretty decent bunny shape, we're going to do a quick crumb coat with our whipped cream. Now you basically just want to do a thin layer of whipped cream. It doesn't need to be perfect because we're going to be piping on some bunny fur anyways. So you just want to make sure that any of like the little crumbs are kind of encapsulated and that they're not flying everywhere. I'm going to put our cake back into the fridge for 30 to 60 minutes, and when we come back, we can start decorating our cake. Now while the cake was chilling, I already went ahead and prepped some of the chocolate decorations. So for that, I just used 50 grams of white chocolate and 50 grams of dark chocolate that I just melted down and then used a little plastic bag as a piping bag to make some of the decorations. And I also used a little printout bunny ear stencil that I found online just to make it a little bit easier to kind of get the shape of it. And other than that, I also did 2 eyes. And I played around with a couple different ways that I could do the little mouth with the whiskers. As you can see, there's a bunch of them, so I'm just gonna pick and choose which ones I think are the prettiest and use those ones. Now that the cake has chilled, we can finish decorating with the leftover whipped cream as well as our brown whipped cream. Now I want my bunny to look like it has fur, so I'm going to be using the piping tips that have the little holes on the top of it. If you just want your bunny to be super smooth, you can just use a little spatula and kind of smooth it out with your whipped cream, but I think the fur is going to look pretty cute. Now to make it a little bit easier and less messy, I have 2 piping tips. They're 2 different sizes. They're the exact same one though. So to make it easier, I'm going to just use one for my brown whipped cream and one for my white whipped cream. That way I don't have to wash my piping bag halfway through. Now I also have some leftover green buttercream from a different cake that I made, so I figured this is the perfect opportunity to kind of use that up. Now if you don't have any buttercream flying around, you can always just whip up an additional 100 milliliters of whipping cream and dye that with any green food dye. Now I'm simply using the same piping tip as I did for the rest of my bunny, and I'm just going to make some grass along the outside of my bunny. Now for the final touches, we just need to add our chocolate decorations, and of course, because this is an Easter bunny, I'm going to add a couple mini eggs into the grass as well. And there's our Easter bunny. So that's going to be everything for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, you can give it a thumbs up or write me a comment down below. And as always, the whole recipe is going to be in the description box as well.